I was going to die. The thought arrived with perfect clarity as I watched the servant pour wine into the 3 crystal goblets at the head table, the liquid catching torchlight like liquid rubies. I'd been the royal food taster for 6 months, long enough to recognize the faint bitter almond scent that shouldn't be in Valerian red wine, short enough that I still cared about stopping it. The grand hall was packed, 300 nobles celebrating the spring equinox, the anniversary of the Triplet king's coronation. Everyone who mattered in the 3 kingdoms was here, dressed in their finest silks and jewels, competing to be noticed by the 3 most powerful alphas alive. I stood in my designated spot against the pillar, 15 feet from the head table where the king sat, close enough to intervene if needed, far enough to be invisible. Theron, Evander, and Lyrian, the Triplet kings who'd ruled jointly for 5 years, but ever since their parents died in the plague that took half the royal family. They were identical in appearance. All 3 had the same sharp features, the same dark hair that fell just past their collars, the same pale green eyes that seemed to see straight through pretense. But anyone who'd served them for more than a week learned to tell them apart. Theron sat in the center throne, spine straight, every movement controlled, the strategist, the one who carried the weight of 3 kingdoms on his shoulders and never let it show. Evander sat to his right, relaxed in posture, but with eyes that never stopped scanning the room for threats. The warrior. The one who'd personally executed the nobles who'd tried to stage a coup 2 years ago. Lyrian sat to Theron's left, smiling at something a duchess was saying, making her feel like the most important person in the room. The diplomat. The one who could negotiate peace treaties and trade agreements that left everyone thinking they'd won. 3 kings. 1 throne of power, divided equally between brothers who trusted each other absolutely. And someone had just poisoned their wine. I moved before I could think about consequences. My position as food taster gave me exactly 1 privilege, the right to approach the head table during meals without announcement. I crossed the 15 feet in seconds, my heart hammering. The servant had just finished pouring the 3rd goblet. The kings were turning their attention back to the table, hands reaching for the wine in perfect synchronization. "Your Majesties," I said, my voice cutting through the ambient noise. All 3 sets of pale green eyes snapped to me. I'd interrupted the Triplet kings during a state dinner, in front of 300 nobles. This alone could get me executed for disrespect, but I could smell the poison, faint but unmistakable. "The wine," I managed, already reaching for Theron's goblet. "Please, I need to—" Evander's hand shot out, caught my wrist. His grip was iron. "Explain. Now." "Poison," I said quietly, pitched for their ears only. "I can smell it. Bitter almond. It shouldn't be there." The 3 kings exchanged a look, that silent communication they were famous for. Theron gave a microscopic nod. Evander released my wrist. I picked up the first goblet, Theron's, and brought it to my lips. The room had gone quiet, everyone watching the Omega food taster who'd just interrupted the kings. "Kale," Lyrian said softly. He knew my name. I hadn't realized any of them knew my name. "You don't have to—" I drank. The wine hit my tongue sweet at first. Then the bitterness bloomed. Not enough to be obvious to someone drinking casually. But I'd been trained for this. Nightshade, mixed with something else I couldn't identify. Enough to kill an alpha within hours. Ukint enough to kill me within minutes. The goblet slipped from my fingers. I heard it shatter. Heard the gasps. Heard Lyrian swear viciously, which he never did in public. The world tilted. I was falling backward, and there was nothing I could do to stop it, except I didn't hit the ground. Strong hands caught me. Multiple hands. Multiple grips. My head landed on something firm but not uncomfortable. My shoulders were supported. Someone's hand cradled the back of my neck. Through blurring vision, I realized where I was. I'd fallen across all 3 kings' laps. My head was in Theron's lap, his hand cupping my skull like something precious. My shoulders and ribs rested across Evander's thighs, his arm locked around my waist. My legs were draped over Lyrian's lap, his hands gripping my calves to keep me from sliding. The 3 Triplet kings were holding me between them like I belonged there. And all 3 of them were looking at me with expressions I couldn't read through the haze of poison. "Get Rowan!" Theron snapped at someone. "Now!" Rowan, the royal physician. "You fucking idiot!" Evander said, but his voice was rough in a way that didn't sound angry. His hand tightened on my waist. "What were you thinking?" "My job," I managed. The words came out slurred. "Taster. It's my job." "Your job is to taste before we drink," Lyrian said. His thumb was tracing circles on my ankle, an absent soothing gesture he probably didn't realize he was doing. "Not to drink poison directly from our glasses during a state dinner." "Faster this way," I said. Everything was getting distant. "Stops you from drinking it." Theron's hand moved from my skull to my face, tilting my chin so I had to meet his eyes. "Stay with us, Kale. Keep your eyes open." I tried, but the poison was working fast, pulling me under. The last thing I felt was the 3 of them holding me tighter, as if they could keep me tethered to consciousness through sheer will. The last thing I heard was Theron's voice, tight with something that sounded like fear. "Don't you dare die on us." Then darkness. I woke to sunlight and pain. The sunlight was warm, filtering through gauze curtains. The pain was a dull throb that radiated from my stomach outward, like I'd been hollowed out and filled with glass shards. I blinked, trying to orient myself. This wasn't my quarters in the servants' wing. The bed was too soft, the room too large, the furniture too expensive. "You're awake." I turned my head, slowly, because it felt like my skull might crack, and found Lyrian sitting in a chair beside the bed. He looked terrible. His hair was disheveled, his formal dinner jacket discarded, his shirt sleeves rolled up and wrinkled. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. "How long?" I croaked. 36 hours. He leaned forward, poured water from a pitcher into a glass, held it to my lips with surprising gentleness. "You've been unconscious for a day and a half. Rowan said it was close. Very close." I drank. The water helped. "The other 2 goblets?" "Poisoned. All 3. Lyrian's expression went hard. "If you hadn't stopped us, we'd all be dead right now." The weight of that settled over me. "Did you find who—" "The servant who poured the wine was dead within the hour. Poison. Same as what was in the goblets." Lyrian set the glass aside. "Whoever did this is covering their tracks thoroughly." I tried to sit up. Pain lanced through my abdomen and I gasped. Lyrian's hands were immediately on my shoulders, easing me back down. "Don't. Rowan had to cut you open to remove your stomach lining. The poison had adhered to it. You need to rest." "Cut me open." I was an Omega. Surgery like that could affect my ability to— "I can see your mind spinning," Lyrian said. He'd pulled his chair closer, was watching my face with unsettling focus. "Rowan preserved everything that matters. Your reproductive organs weren't touched. You'll heal completely." The fact that he'd known exactly what I was worried about without me saying it should have been embarrassing. Instead, it felt like being seen. "The state dinner," I said. I interrupted. "I grabbed your brother's goblet without permission. I saved our lives," Lyrian finished. "The entire kingdom is calling you a hero. There's a ballad already." "A ballad?" "The Omega who drank death for kings." He smiled slightly. "It's terrible. Very dramatic. Theron has banned it from being performed in the palace, but the taverns are having a field day." Despite everything, I almost laughed, then winced as the movement pulled at my incision. "Where are the others?" I asked. Lyrian's smile faded. "Theron is interrogating everyone who had access to the wine cellars. Evander is personally reviewing every guard on duty that night." He paused. "We've been taking shifts, sitting with you, making sure you weren't alone when you woke up. You didn't have to—" "Yes," Lyrian said firmly. "We did." The door opened. Theron entered, still in yesterday's clothes, looking just as wrecked as Lyrian. When he saw me awake, something in his expression cracked. "You're awake," he said. It wasn't a question, but there was relief in his voice that seemed disproportionate for a food taster he barely knew. "I'm told I ruined your state dinner," I said. "You saved our lives." Theron crossed to the bed, stood on the opposite side from Lyrian. "There's a difference. We need to talk." Evander's voice came from the doorway. He stepped in, looking the most composed of the 3, but his knuckles were bruised, and I suspected someone had gotten interrogated the hard way. He stopped when he saw me. "You're conscious." "Apparently." "Good." He moved to the foot of the bed, arms crossed. "Because we have a problem." Theron shot him a look. "He just woke up from major surgery, and he needs to know this," Evander interrupted. "The poison. It wasn't meant just to kill us. It was engineered specifically to circumvent food tasters." I frowned. "How?" "It's delayed release," Lyrian explained. "A food taster takes a small sip, waits the standard 15 minutes, and if nothing happens, the food is declared safe. But this poison only activates with a full dose. A sip would do nothing. A goblet's worth would kill." My blood went cold. "So, if I'd just tasted it the normal way, we'd all be dead," Theron finished. "You saved us by breaking protocol, by drinking the full glass immediately instead of testing it properly. Which means someone inside the palace knows our security procedures," Evander said. "Someone with access to the wine cellars, knowledge of poison making, and detailed information about how food tasting works." "A noble," I said. "Almost certainly." Theron's jaw was tight. "But we have 300 suspects, and any one of them could have hired the servant to do the actual deed." Silence fell, heavy with implications. "There's something else," Lyrian said quietly. "When you fell, when we caught you." The 3 of them exchanged another one of those silent looks. "What?" I asked, even though part of me wasn't sure I wanted to know. Theron sat on the edge of the bed. Slow, deliberate, giving me time to object. "Our wolves recognized you," he said. The world seemed to tilt. "All 3 of you?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Simultaneously," Evander confirmed. "The moment you landed in our laps. All 3 of us felt the bond snap into place." I couldn't breathe. "That's not possible." "Apparently it is." Lyrian's hand found mine, threaded our fingers together. "Triplet bonds are rare. A triplet bonds to the same omega are unheard of, but unmistakable. You're our mate, Theron said. His hand covered our joined hands, his, Lyrian's, mine. All three of us. One mate shared between three alphas. That's... I couldn't finish. My mind was reeling. Insane, Evander supplied. Unprecedented, politically complicated. He moved closer, sat on the foot of the bed. Also true. I'm a food taster, I said, a commoner. An omega with no family, no connections. No, you're ours, Theron interrupted. Everything else is negotiable. The certainty in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like an anchor. I need time, I managed. To think, to process. I can't just... We know. Lyrian squeezed my hand. We're not asking you to decide anything right now. You're recovering. You need rest. But you need to know, Evander added, that while you're recovering, you're under our protection. Official protection. On anyone who tries to harm you goes through us. The poisoner is still out there, Theron said. They failed to kill us. That makes you a loose end. A witness who could identify patterns, connections. You're not safe in the servants' quarters. So you're staying here, Lyrian finished, in the royal wing, where we can keep you safe. That's not appropriate. It's necessary, Evander cut me off, and non-negotiable. I looked between the three of them. Theron with his careful control starting to fracture. Evander with his protective instincts written across every line of his body. Lyrian with his diplomatic smile gone, replaced with raw concern. Three triplet kings who apparently believed I was their fated mate. And I was too exhausted, too full of poison's after effects, too overwhelmed to argue. 1 week, I heard myself say. I'll stay 1 week, until I'm healed enough to walk without assistance. Then we talk about what this actually means. Acceptable, Theron said immediately. We can work with that, Lyrian agreed. Evander just nodded, the closest he'd come to showing relief. Now sleep, Theron said. His hand was still over mine and Lyrian's. We'll be here when you wake. All three of you. We're taking shifts, Lyrian explained. One of us will always be in this room. Always. That's not necessary. Yes, all three said in perfect unison. And despite everything, the poison, the pain, the impossible bond, the danger, I felt myself smiling. All right, I said. One of you. Always. Good, Theron said. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. Now sleep, I did. And when I woke hours later, Evander was sitting in the chair Lyrian had occupied, reading a military report, but glancing up every few minutes to check on me. When he saw me watching, he set the report aside. Water? He offered, please. He helped me drink, his movements surprisingly gentle for someone with a warrior's reputation. Thank you, I said, for all of this. You took poison meant for us, Evander said, without hesitation, without being asked. You could have let the servant pour, let us taste it ourselves. Stayed safe. That's not how it works. For most people, it is. His pale green eyes held mine. Self-preservation is instinct. What you did was the opposite. It's my job. It was your job, he corrected. You're not a food taster anymore, I blinked. Did you fire me? We promoted you. A hint of smile. Can't have our mate working in the kitchens. I haven't agreed to be anyone's mate. No, Evander acknowledged. But you haven't disagreed either. Fair point. What happens, I asked, if I do disagree? If I decide this bond isn't something I want? Evander was quiet for a long moment. Then we respect that. Let you go. Spend the rest of our lives wanting something we can't have. The honesty in his voice made my chest tight. But we hope you won't, he added. Decide that, I mean. Why? I shifted slightly, testing my pain levels. Better than before. You don't know me. I don't know you. This bond is just biology. It doesn't mean... It means everything, Evander interrupted. To us, at least. He leaned forward. We've been ruling for 5 years. Nobles throw their Omega children at us constantly. Beautiful, educated, connected Omegas who would bring political advantages. We've never been interested, never felt anything. And now? Now when you're in pain, I feel it. He pressed his fist to his chest. Here, like something's wrong in my own body. When you smile, even that small smile you gave before you fell asleep, it's like sunlight. And when you were unconscious for 36 hours, all three of us were losing our minds. That's the bond talking. The bond doesn't create feelings, Evander said. It amplifies what's already there, recognizes compatibility. And my wolf recognized you the second you landed in my lap. I was dying. You were brave, selfless, exactly the kind of person we've been waiting for without realizing we were waiting. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm not asking you to decide now, Evander said. Just stay. Give us a chance to show you who we are. Give yourself a chance to see if this could work. And if it can't, then at least we tried. He stood, moved to adjust my pillows. Get some rest. Theron will take next shift. And after him? Lyrian, then me again. We have it scheduled out for the next 48 hours. You really don't have to... Kyle. He looked at me seriously. Yes? We do. He left through the connecting door, and I was alone with my thoughts. 3 Triplet kings believed I was their mate. 1 week. To decide if I believed it too. I closed my eyes and tried not to think about how right it had felt when all 3 of them held me. The days developed a rhythm. Rowan, the royal physician, a stern beta woman with silver hair and no patience for dramatics, visited twice daily to check my incision and change my bandages. She pronounced me healing remarkably well for someone who drank poison and had emergency surgery. The bond helps, she said on the 3rd day, pressing carefully around the incision site. Mate bonds accelerate omega healing when alphas are present, which explains why you're recovering twice as fast as you should be. I haven't accepted the bond, I protested. Your body has. She gave me a knowing look, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. Between medical visits, I was never alone. The 3 kings rotated exactly as promised. 8-hour shifts each, overlapping slightly during handoffs, so I was never without one of them. Theron brought work with him. Reports, proposals, letters from other kingdoms. He'd sit in the chair beside my bed and read aloud, asking my opinion on trade agreements and treaty negotiations like my input mattered. You have a different perspective, he said when I questioned it. You've lived as a commoner, worked in the kitchens. You've seen how the palace actually functions from the inside. That's valuable. I'm a food taster. You were a food taster, he corrected. Now you're... He paused. Honestly, I'm not sure what your official title is yet, but it's not that. Evander brought strategy games, complex board games involving military tactics and resource management. He taught me to play, then proceeded to lose 3 games in a row before admitting he was letting me win. You're injured, he said when I called him on it. It's only fair. It's condescending. Fine. He reset the board. Next game, no mercy. He crushed me thoroughly, then taught me exactly what I'd done wrong and why. By the end of the week, I'd won a game legitimately. His smile when I did was worth all the losses. Lyrian brought books and conversation. He'd read to me, poetry, histories, novels, and we'd discussed them. He asked about my life before the palace. He seemed genuinely interested in my answers. You're from the northern provinces, he said one evening, but you don't have the accent. I worked hard to lose it. I shifted in bed, finding a comfortable position. Northern accents get you dismissed as uneducated in the capital. I wanted people to take me seriously. That's pragmatic. Lyrian set his book aside, but sad. You shouldn't have to erase parts of yourself to be respected. That's the world we live in. It doesn't have to be. His pale green eyes were thoughtful. If we had the power to change that, would you want us to? I'm one person. My experience isn't universal, but it's yours, and it matters. He leaned forward. We can't fix everything, but we can try, if you tell us what needs fixing. I studied him. Is this what you do? Make people feel heard so they support your policies? Yes, he admitted without shame. But that doesn't make it manipulation. I genuinely want to know, want to understand, want to make things better. Why? Because ruling isn't about power. It's about responsibility. We're responsible for millions of people. If we don't listen to them, we fail them. It was a good answer. Maybe too good. You're all very different, I said. How do you rule together without conflict? Larian smiled. We do conflict constantly. Theron wants to plan everything 3 years in advance. Evander wants to act immediately. I want to consider everyone's feelings. We argue daily. And then we find compromise. Because we trust each other absolutely. We know none of us is trying to gain power over the others. We genuinely want what's best. That's rare. We know. His expression softened. Which is why finding you feels like completion. We work as 3. But with you, we could be whole. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Before I could respond, Theron entered through the connecting door. Time's up, he said to Lyrian. You've had your 8 hours. It's been 7.5. You were early. You came 20 minutes before shift change. Theron's tone was mild but firm. That means you end 20 minutes early. We agreed to equal time. Lyrian sighed but stood. He's right. We did agree. He squeezed my hand briefly. Rest well. To Kyle. After he left, Theron settled into the chair, a stack of papers in hand. Do you always time it exactly? I asked. Yes. No hesitation. We all want time with you. If we're not strict about the schedule, we'll fight over it. This is simpler. Romantic. Practical, he corrected. But there was amusement in his voice. Romance can come after we establish we're capable of sharing you without killing each other. Comforting. He smiled. Rare for Theron, but genuine. We won't actually kill each other, but there would be arguments. Possibly property damage. I found myself smiling back. You really do argue constantly. Different perspectives, different priorities. He set his papers aside. How are you feeling? Truthfully. Better. The pain is manageable. I can sit up without assistance now. Rowan says you'll be cleared to walk tomorrow, which means my week is almost up. It does. Theron's expression grew serious. Have you thought about what comes after? I had. Constantly. Every waking moment I wasn't distracted by one of them. I need to know what you actually want, I said. Not the bond, not biology. What do the three of you want from me if this is real? Theron considered his answer carefully. A partner, someone who challenges us, supports us, sees us as people, not just kings. Someone we can trust absolutely. You have each other for that. We have each other as brothers. That's different. He met my eyes. We need someone outside, the three of us. Someone who can call us out when we're wrong. Who brings different perspective. Who makes us better. And you think I can do that. You already have. You questioned my trade proposals. Beat Evander at strategy. Made Lyrian reconsider a policy position. In 1 week, you've done more to challenge us than anyone has in 5 years. Maybe I'm just contrary. Maybe you're exactly what we need. He reached out, his hand hovering near mine, waiting for permission. I gave it, threaded my fingers through his. I'm scared, I admitted. This is too much, too fast. A week ago I was nobody. Now I'm supposedly fated to 3 kings. It's overwhelming. I know. His thumb traced circles on my palm. But it doesn't have to be all at once. We can take this slowly, get to know each other, or see if the bond is real or just biology. And if it's just biology, then we deal with that when we know for certain. His grip tightened slightly, but I don't think it is. I think my wolf recognized something my human mind was too blind to see, which is that you fit, simple, direct, with us, between us, into spaces we didn't know were empty. I wanted to argue, to dismiss it as pretty words, but I felt it too, had felt it all week. I need more time, I said. More than a week. I need to see how this works outside of a bedroom where I'm recovering, in the real world. Understandable. Theron didn't look disappointed. What do you propose? A month, I said. I stay in the palace, not in the royal wing, that's too fast, but nearby. I attend dinners, councils, daily life, see what being with you actually means. And after a month? After a month, I'll know if this is real. Theron was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Acceptable. I'll discuss it with my brothers. They might not agree. They will. He stood but didn't release my hand. We all want the same thing. You. Happy. Willing. Ours by choice, not just biology. He leaned down, pressed his lips to my forehead. Brief. Chaste. Full of promise. Sleep well, Kale. Theron? He paused at the door. Thank you. For understanding. Always. He said. Then he was gone and I was alone with my thoughts and the lingering warmth of his kiss against my skin. Then the next month was the strangest of my life. I was given quarters in the eastern wing, not royal, but noble, large enough for comfort, private enough for peace. Servants assigned to me, though I insisted on doing most things myself. My official title remained undefined, not food taster, not consort, not anything specific. Honored guest of the crown was how Lyrian introduced me at the first state dinner I attended. The nobles whispered, of course they whispered. Everyone knew I'd saved the kings. Everyone knew I'd spent a week recovering in the royal wing. Everyone knew the triplets had been visiting me in shifts. The rumors ranged from plausible to absurd. Some said I was a spy from a rival kingdom. Others claimed I was a long-lost noble with royal blood. A few insisted I'd seduced all 3 kings with omega wiles and was manipulating them for power. The truth, that I was nobody special who'd simply been in the right place at the right time, was apparently too boring to believe. I ignored them all and focused on observing. The triplet kings in their natural environment were fascinating. Theron ran morning councils, listening to petitions from nobles and commoners alike. He was fair, measured, rarely showed emotion. But I'd learned to read the small tells, the tightness around his eyes when a noble lied, the slight nod when someone made a good point, the way his fingers would tap once against the throne's arm when he was suppressing anger. I started attending these councils, sitting in an observation seat to the side, not participating, just watching, learning how the kingdom actually functioned. One morning a merchant petitioned for relief from unfair taxes. The tax collector who'd assessed them sputtered protests, claiming the merchant was lying about his income. I saw Theron's fingers tap. Once. Sharp. The merchant's story rang true. Specific details. Genuine distress, the numbers he cited matched trade patterns I'd observed while working in the kitchens. The tax collector's story had holes, vague accusations, defensive posturing. After the council, I found Theron in his study. The merchant was telling the truth, I said without preamble. Theron looked up from his paperwork, not surprised by my intrusion. How do you know? The tax collector's story had inconsistencies. He claimed the merchant sold grain at inflated prices during the spring shortage, but spring grain comes from the southern provinces, not the northern merchant district. Wrong season, wrong location. He also said the merchant had 15 employees, but a grain merchant that size would need at least 20 during harvest season. The numbers don't add up. Theron set his quill down. And the merchant? Everything he said matched. Import taxes on southern grain are 3% higher than local. which explains his pricing. He mentioned paying dock fees at the Eastern Harbor, which is where southern shipments come in. His employee count of 12 makes sense for a mid-sized operation. He's not lying. You got all that from one petition? I worked in the kitchens. We dealt with the merchants who supplied the palace. You learn to spot which ones are honest and which ones are inflating invoices. Theron leaned back in his chair, studying me. I noticed your fingers tapping too. What? During the petition. Your fingers were drumming on your knee. Same rhythm as mine on the throne. I've been wondering if you'd picked up on the pattern. I had, unconsciously, matching his tell without realizing it. Are you going to investigate the tax collector? I asked. Already ordered it. Theron stood and walked around his desk. But I want your help. My help? You see things I miss. Details that seem insignificant but matter. I want you at every council from now on. Not just observing, advising. I'm not qualified. You're more qualified than half the nobles in that room, he interrupted. They've never lived outside the palace, never worked a day in their lives, never had to survive on a budget. You have. That matters. Theron, will you help me? He was closer now. Close enough that I could smell his scent, cedar and something darker. Please? The please did it. Yes, I said, I'll help. His smile was small but genuine. Thank you. Our hands brushed. Just barely. But the bond flared warm between us. I was starting to understand why they believed we were mates. Evander trained in the mornings. Sword work, hand-to-hand combat, strategy drills with his guards. I started watching from the observation deck after my third day in the Eastern Wing. The way he moved was mesmerizing. Pure, controlled violence. Every strike precise. Every block perfectly timed. He wasn't just skilled. He was exceptional. After the third morning of me watching, he called up to me. You want to learn? I'm recovering from surgery, I pointed out. You're cleared for light activity. Rowan told me yesterday. He held up a practice sword, wooden, waited for training. Come down. I did, descending the stone steps to the training yard. Up close, Evander was even more imposing. Sweat gleamed on his skin, his chest heaving from exertion, his eyes bright with challenge. Ever held a sword before? He asked. Kitchen knives count? Not even a little. He handed me the practice blade. Hold it like this. He adjusted my grip. His hands covered mine, warm and calloused, positioning my fingers correctly. The bond pulsed. Sharp, undeniable. Evander felt it too. His eyes darkened, pupils dilating. But he stepped back, gave me space. A basic stance, he said, demonstrating. Feet shoulder width apart, weight balanced, blade angled like this. I copied him. Poorly. He corrected my form. Patient, methodical, never making me feel inadequate for being smaller, weaker, omega. We worked for an hour. Basic blocks, simple strikes, footwork. By the end I was sweating and sore, but exhilarated. You're naturally balanced, Evander observed, handing me water. Good instincts for defense. I'm not trying to be a warrior. No, but you should know how to protect yourself. His expression grew serious. The poisoner is still out there. They've gone quiet, but that doesn't mean they've given up. Next time, we might not get to you in time. So, you're teaching me to fight. I'm teaching you to survive. He took the practice sword back. Big difference. Is this what you do? Prepare for the worst? Every day. He wiped sweat from his face. Theron plans for the future. Lyrian handles the present. I prepare for disaster. It's how we balance. You really are different. We have to be. If we were all the same, we'd make the same mistakes. This way we cover each other's blind spots. And mine? What about them? What are my blind spots? Evander considered this. You trust too easily. Assume the best in people. It's admirable, but dangerous. And yours? I assume the worst. See threats everywhere. Sometimes I'm right. Sometimes I'm paranoid. He met my eyes. Which is why I need someone who balances that. Someone who reminds me that not everyone is an enemy. Is that what you think I am? Your balance? I think you might be. He stepped closer. If you stay long enough for us to find out. The intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. I'm still deciding, I managed. I know. He smiled slightly. But I'm hoping you decide in our favor. Training with Evander became routine. Every morning an hour of drills. I got stronger, faster, more confident. And I started to see the man beneath the warrior king persona. He was protective, yes, vigilant, always scanning for threats, but also patient. He noticed when I was tired and called breaks without me asking, brought water before I needed it, adjusted difficulty based on my energy level. One morning, after a particularly good session where I'd successfully blocked 3 of his strikes in a row, he grinned. You're getting good at this. You're a good teacher. You're a good student. He offered me his water skin. Most nobles I train with think they know everything already. You listen, adapt, learn. Because I actually need this. They're just playing. Exactly. He drank from the skin after me, not bothering to wipe the rim. An intimacy that shouldn't have felt significant but did. That's the difference. Our hands brushed when he handed it back. The bond flared, stronger than before. It's getting harder to ignore, I said quietly. The bond? Everything. You. Them. This whole situation. Evander was quiet for a moment. Then, would it help if I said we're feeling it too? That ignoring this is getting harder for us every day? Maybe. Then I'm saying it. He stepped closer. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his skin. I wake up thinking about you. Spend my whole day waiting for our training session. Go to sleep wishing I could check on you one more time. And I know Theron and Lyrian feel the same because we've talked about it. You talk about me? Constantly. It's pathetic. He smiled slightly. We're three of the most powerful alphas alive, and we're pining like teenagers over an Omega who hasn't even decided if he wants us. I'm deciding, I said. Just slowly. Take your time. But his hand lifted, cupped my face, gentle despite the calluses. Just know that we're here. Waiting. Hoping. I leaned into his touch before I could stop myself. His thumb traced my cheekbone. Once. Twice. Then he stepped back, giving me space again. Same time tomorrow? He asked. Same time, I confirmed. I was falling. Slowly. Inevitably. And I was starting to think I didn't want to stop. Lyrian handled afternoon audiences, nobles, diplomats, visiting dignitaries. I sat in on several, watching him work. He was brilliant at it, smoothing over conflicts, finding compromises, making everyone feel heard, even when he was steering them exactly where he wanted them to go. It was manipulation. Skilled. Necessary, but still manipulation. After one particularly tense negotiation between two rival merchant families, I found him on the eastern terrace, staring out at the city below. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange. You're good at that, I said, joining him at the railing. At what? Making people think they won when you got exactly what you wanted all along. He glanced at me. Is that criticism? Observation. It's manipulation, he said bluntly. Skilled, necessary manipulation, but still. I make people feel certain ways to achieve specific outcomes. Direct them toward conclusions I want them to reach while making them think they came up with it themselves. Does it bother you? Sometimes. He turned to face me fully. I wonder if people ever see the real me, or if they only see the diplomat I want them to see. If everything I do is performance. I see you, I said. Do you? His pale green eyes searched my face. Or do you see another performance? I thought about it. Really thought about it. You perform for others, I said slowly. Make yourself whatever they need you to be, but not for me. Not anymore. How do you know? Because your performances are flawless, and with me you make mistakes. You'd show uncertainty. Actually ask my opinion instead of telling me what you think I want to hear. You let me see the cracks. Lyrian was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're right. I usually am. He laughed. Actually laughed. Confident. Observant. Both. He moved closer, leaning against the railing beside me. Our shoulders brushed. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. Are you happy, here, with us in this strange situation? I considered the question honestly. Lyrian deserved honesty. I don't know yet, I admitted. Happy is a strong word, but I'm not unhappy. I'm curious, engaged, interested in seeing where this goes. That's something. It's more than I expected. I looked out at the city, lights beginning to glow in windows as darkness fell. A month ago, I was a food taster. Nobody. Invisible. Now I'm having diplomatic lessons from a king and philosophical conversations on terraces. And it's surreal. Would you prefer to go back? To being nobody? No. The answer surprised me as much as it seemed to surprise him. I like this. Being seen, mattering, having opinions that people actually listen to. You always mattered, Lyrian said softly. We just weren't paying attention. And now you are. Now we can't look away. His hand found mine on the railing. Even if we wanted to, which we don't. The bond pulsed between us. Warm, steady, growing stronger every day. I'm falling, I said quietly. I can feel it happening, and I don't know if I should try to stop it or just let it happen. What does your instinct say? That this is too fast, too much, that I should be more careful. And what does your heart say? I turned to look at him. Really look at him. Lyrian, the diplomat, the peacemaker, the one who made everyone around him comfortable while hiding his own discomfort. Except he wasn't hiding now. His expression was open, vulnerable, hopeful. My heart says to stay, I whispered. His smile was brilliant. Then stay. I haven't decided yet. I know. He squeezed my hand. But the fact that your heart says stay, that's enough for now. We stood there as darkness fell, hands linked, neither of us ready to let go. 3 weeks into the month, the poisoner struck again. This time they went after me. I was in my quarters reading a book Lyrian had recommended when the pain hit. Sharp, immediate. Like my stomach was being torn apart from the inside. I dropped the book, tried to stand, collapsed instead. Through the haze of pain I recognized the symptoms. Poison. Different from the nightshade blend, but still deadly. I'd been poisoned. But how? I hadn't eaten or drunk anything that hadn't been tested. The tea. I'd had tea delivered an hour ago. Sealed pot. Standard service. I hadn't thought to check it because I wasn't officially a target, except apparently I was. I tried to crawl toward the door. Get help. Tell someone. My vision was blurring. My arms wouldn't support my weight. I was going to die in my quarters. Alone. The door slammed open. Kale, Evander's voice. Then his hands on me, rolling me over, checking my pulse. Poison, I managed. Tea. Rowan! Evander's command voice, loud enough to carry. Now! Then he was lifting me, carrying me. Everything went hazy. I remember being placed on a bed. Rowan's voice, sharp and professional. On someone holding my hand. Stay with us, Evander said. His voice was rough, scared. Don't you fucking dare, Kale. Stay. I tried. But the poison was strong, pulling me under. The last thing I felt was 3 sets of hands holding me. The last thing I heard was Theron's voice. Find who did this. Bring them to me alive. Then nothing. I woke in the royal wing. Again. The room was the same one I'd recovered in before. Same bed. Same windows. Same... All 3 kings were in the room. Theron sat in the chair beside the bed, head in his hands. Evander stood at the window, staring out with rigid posture. Lyrian was pacing, moving back and forth like a caged animal. He's awake, Lyrian said. All 3 turned to me simultaneously. How do you feel? Rowan's voice came from my other side. I turned my head to find her checking my pulse. Alive, I croaked. Barely. Her tone was sharp. You were minutes from cardiac arrest when they brought you in. The poison was designed specifically to kill Omegas. Fast-acting, high lethality, difficult to counteract. But you counteracted it. I had help. She nodded toward the 3 kings. Alpha pheromones during Omega crisis can sometimes stabilize vital functions. All 3 of them flooded this room with enough pheromones to knock out a lesser Omega. Your body responded. Fought the poison. Survived. The bond, I whispered. The bond, she confirmed. Whether you accept it or not, it's real. It's why you're alive. She left, giving us privacy. Silence fell, heavy and charged. I'm sorry, Theron said finally. His voice was wrecked. This is our fault. We should have protected you better. We knew someone was targeting us. Should have anticipated they'd go after you. How did you know? I asked. How did Evander find me so fast? We felt it, Evander said from the window. Through the bond. 1 second everything was fine. The next, it was like someone was stabbing us all from the inside. We all ran. I was closest, Evander continued. Broke down your door. Found you on the floor. We thought we'd lost you, Lyrian said. He'd stopped pacing, stood at the foot of the bed. For the second time. And I don't... His voice cracked. I can't do that again. I'd never seen any of them this shaken. I'm fine, I said. Inadequate, but true. You're not, Theron corrected. You were poisoned. Again. Because of us. Not because of you. Because someone wants to hurt you and sees me as a way to do it. Which is still our fault. I pushed myself up. Slowly, because my body felt like it had been through a war. Stop. All 3 looked at me. This is not your fault, I said firmly. You didn't poison me. You didn't target me. You saved me. Again. We put you in danger by keeping you close, Theron argued. I put myself in danger by drinking poisoned wine during a state dinner, I countered. I made a choice. I'm still making choices. And I choose to stay. Silence. You're staying. Lyrian's voice was careful. Hopeful. The month isn't up and I took a breath. I want to see this through. Figure out what this is. Who's behind the attacks? And whether this bond is real. It is real, Evander said quietly. Maybe. I met his eyes. But I need to be sure. And I need to know you're not just feeling this because biology is telling you to. Fair, Theron said. What do you need? Honesty. Time. And... I paused. I need to help catch whoever's doing this. I'm not a victim to be protected. I'm a target. Which means I can be bait. Absolutely not, all 3 said in unison. I wasn't asking permission. Kyle, Theron started. Someone wants me dead, I interrupted. They've tried twice. They'll try again. We can either wait for it to happen, or we can control the circumstances. You want to lure them out, Evander said slowly. Understanding dawning. Yes. Using yourself as bait. Yes. No, Lyrian said. That's too dangerous. It's the only way. I looked at each of them. Unless you have better ideas. They exchanged looks. That silent communication again. We'd need safeguards, Theron said finally. Multiple layers. Guards you don't know about. Rowan on standby. A controlled environment. I can work with that. And you follow our lead, Evander added. You're not trained for this. We are. Agreed. And if at any point it gets too dangerous, Lyrian started. We abort, I finished. I'm not suicidal. I just want this over. More silent communication. All right, Theron said. We'll do it. Together. Together, I echoed. And felt the bond pulse between us. All 4 of us. Connected. whether I was ready for it or not. The plan was simple. I would resume normal activities, attend dinners, councils, daily routines, but with hidden guards watching, Rowan nearby with antidotes, and a system of signals to alert the kings if anything seemed wrong. The poisoner would see an opportunity. They'd gotten close twice. They'd try again. And when they did, we'd catch them. 3 days into the plan, nothing happened. 4 days, still nothing. On the 5th day, I received an invitation, an informal dinner. A small gathering of nobles in the East Gardens, hosted by Duchess Vera Holden, one of the kingdom's wealthiest and most influential nobles. The same duchess who'd been seated near the head table during the state dinner where the wine was poisoned. It could be nothing, Lyrian said when I showed him the invitation. Vera hosts dinners constantly. Or it could be our poisoner, Evander countered, testing to see if Kale will accept. Getting him into a semi-private setting. We'll be there, Theron decided, all 3 of us. If it's a trap, we spring it together. The dinner was held in the Duchess's private gardens. 20 guests, elegant setting, multiple courses. I sat between Lyrian and Evander. Theron was across the table, positioned to have clear line of sight to me. The Duchess was charming, gracious, asking after my health, expressing horror at the second poisoning attempt. You must be terrified, she said, not knowing who to trust. I trust the people who matter, I replied carefully. The kings? Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. How fortunate for you. Their protection must be comprehensive. There was something in her tone, an edge I couldn't place. Dinner proceeded. Each course was tested by official tasters before being served. Nothing suspicious, until dessert. The Duchess personally served me a delicate pastry, glazed fruit, cream sauce. I had the kitchens make this specially, she said, since you're the guest of honor. Guest of honor. At a dinner I'd been invited to last minute. I looked at the pastry, looked at the Duchess's smile, looked at Evander beside me. He gave a microscopic nod. I picked up my fork, took a bite. The taste was perfect, sweet, rich, exactly right. And underneath that familiar bitter almond scent, I set my fork down. Delicious, I said. But I'm quite full. Perhaps I could save this for later. Of course, the Duchess said smoothly. I'll have it wrapped. She signaled a servant. Evander's hand found mine under the table. Squeezed once. The signal. We had her. Guards materialized from the gardens. Silent. Efficient. The Duchess's face went white. What? Duchess Vera Holden. Theron's voice cut across the sudden silence. You are under arrest for attempted murder of the crown. That's absurd, she sputtered. I've done nothing. The pastry Kale just ate was poisoned, Lyrian said quietly. We had every course tested, except the one you personally served him, the one made specially. That proves nothing. Anyone could have... Rowan, Theron called. The royal physician stepped forward, took the uneaten portion of pastry, applied a testing solution. It turned black. Nightshade. Same as before. You have the right to petition for trial, Theron said, but the evidence is clear. You will be detained pending investigation. As guards led her away, she turned to me. This isn't over, she hissed. You're nobody. You don't deserve them. You... Enough. Evander's voice was ice. Take her. Silence fell after she was gone. I realized I was shaking. Kyle, Lyrian's hand on my shoulder. You did perfectly. She really tried to kill me. Just now. In front of everyone. She's arrogant, Theron said. Thought she was untouchable. That we wouldn't dare accuse a duchess without absolute proof. Why though? I looked at them. Why does she want me dead? We'll find out, Evander promised. They did. Under interrogation, Duchess Vera broke. She'd been in love with Theron for years, obsessed. When rumors started that the triplets had found their mate, she'd panicked. The first poisoning, the wine at the state dinner, had been meant to kill all 3 kings. If she couldn't have them, no one could. When that failed because of me, she'd pivoted. Kill me instead. Break their hearts. Make them vulnerable. The second poisoning had been her testing methods. The dinner, her final attempt. She'll be executed, Theron told me in his study afterward. The law is clear. Attempted murder of the crown is death. I nodded. Felt nothing about it. Are you all right? He asked. Should I be? You almost died. Again. But I didn't. I looked at him. Because of you. On all 3 of you. We should have caught her sooner. You caught her. I stood, moved around his desk, sat on the edge facing him. That's what matters. He looked up at me. When I thought she'd succeeded, when you took that bite, He stopped. I've never been that terrified. But I'm fine. This time. His hand found mine. What about next time? There will be other threats. Other people who want to hurt us through you. Then we deal with them. Together. You're staying. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Yes, I said. I'm staying. His grip on my hand tightened. The month isn't over. I don't need the full month. I leaned forward. I know what I want. Which is this. I gestured between us. You. Them. All of it. Theron stood in one fluid motion, pulled me into his arms. You're sure? I'm sure. He kissed me. It was different from the chaste kiss on my forehead weeks ago. This was claiming, but possessive, full of weeks of restraint breaking. When we pulled apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were molten. We should tell the others, he managed. Probably. Neither of us moved. The door opened. Evander and Lyrian walked in, clearly having felt something through the bond. Did he? Lyrian started. He's staying, Theron confirmed. Evander crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled me from Theron's arms into his own. You're sure? Very sure. He kissed me too. Different from Theron. Rougher. More desperate. Like he'd been holding back for too long. When he finally released me, Lyrian was there. My turn, he said. His kiss was gentle but thorough, taking his time, making sure I felt every moment of it. When all 3 of them stepped back, we were all breathing hard. So, I said, what happens now? Now, Theron said, we make this official. Official how? Bonding ceremony, Lyrian explained. Public. Formal. Declaring you our mate before the 3 kingdoms. That's... I swallowed. Big. It is. Evander agreed. But necessary. If we don't formalize this, people will keep testing. Keep trying to break the bond. Make you a target. I'm already a target. As our official bonded mate, you're untouchable, Theron said. It's treason to harm a royal consort. Automatic death penalty. So this is for protection. Partially. Lyrian stepped closer. But also because we want the world to know you're ours. And we're yours. I looked at the 3 of them. So different. So unified in this. All right, I said. Let's do it. The bonding ceremony was held on the summer solstice, 3 months after I'd accidentally fallen into their laps during a state dinner. 3 months of recovery, discovery, danger, and slowly falling in love with 3 men who happened to be kings. The ceremony was massive. Thousands of attendees. Nobles from all 3 kingdoms. Commoners allowed into the palace grounds to witness. I wore ceremonial robes, Omega traditional dress, but modified with the 3 kingdoms' colors woven through. Theron's deep blue, Evander's forest green, Lyrian's rich gold. The 3 kings wore matching formal attire, standing together at the altar in the grand hall. The same hall where I'd saved their lives. The same hall where this all began. The high priest performed the rites. Ancient words. Binding oaths. When it came time for the claiming marks, all 3 kings knelt before me. Unprecedented. Kings didn't kneel, but they did. For me. Theron went first. His mark on the left side of my neck. His bite careful but firm, establishing the bond permanently. Evander next. Right side of my neck. His bite possessive, claiming. Lyrian last. Center of my collarbone. His bite gentle but absolute. When all 3 marks were in place, the bond flared, not slowly building like it had been. But all at once. Complete. Unbreakable. I felt them. All 3. Their emotions, their presence, their absolute certainty, and they felt me. The crowd roared approval. The ceremony concluded with the traditional kiss, all 3 of them taking turns. Theron first, then Evander, then Lyrian, sealing the bond, making it real. When it was over, we stood together, the 3 Triplet kings and their mate. How do you feel? Lyrian whispered. Complete, I said, and meant it. That night, in the royal wing where I now officially lived, we consummated the bond. All 3 of them, taking turns, worshipping every inch of my body like I was something precious. Theron was controlled, strategic, knowing exactly where to touch, how to move, what I needed before I knew it myself. Evander was passionate, intense, overwhelming in the best way, making me forget everything except sensation. Lyrian was tender, attentive, making sure I felt cherished, loved, wanted. When it was over, we lay tangled together in the massive bed designed for exactly this, 1 Omega, 3 Alphas, all connected. I love you, Theron said quietly. All of you, Evander added. So much, Lyrian finished. I love you too, I said. All 3 of you. The bond pulsed between us, warm, perfect, home. I'd accidentally fallen into their laps and found exactly where I belonged. 5 years later, I stood in the grand hall watching the spring equinox celebration. 5 years since the poisoning. 5 years since everything changed. The hall had been transformed. Where I'd once served as a food taster, invisible against the pillars, now I stood at the head table. Not as a servant, as a consort, as a mate, as family. Our daughter, Mira, 4 years old with Theron's strategic mind, Evander's protective instincts and Lyrian's diplomatic charm, was helping set up decorations. Mostly she was getting in the way, but everyone indulged her because she was adorable and also, technically, 4th in line for 3 thrones. She'd been born 2 years after the bonding ceremony. My first heat had come just weeks after we'd consummated the bond, intense and overwhelming in a way I hadn't expected. All 3 of them had stayed with me through it, taking turns caring for me, making sure I was never alone. Mira had been conceived during those fevered days, a perfect result of our newly formed bond. A difficult pregnancy that had terrified all three of my mates. Rowan had put me on bed rest for the final trimester, and the triplets had taken turns staying with me, making sure I wasn't alone. When Mira finally arrived, tiny, perfect, with pale green eyes that matched her father's, all three kings had wept. I'd never seen them cry before that moment. "She's going to be a handful," Evander said, coming up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. I leaned back into him. He's comfortable with the touch after years of it. "She already is. Like her father's." "Definitely like her father's," I agreed, watching Mira try to hang a ribbon that was far too long for her to manage. "The council is requesting your presence tomorrow," Theron said, appearing on my other side. He'd been reviewing security arrangements with the guards, making sure tonight's celebration wouldn't have any repeats of 5 years ago. "They want your input on the new trade agreements with the southern kingdoms." "My input? Not yours. They trust you more than us on certain matters," Theron said without resentment. It had taken years, but he'd learned to delegate, to trust others with responsibilities he used to carry alone. "You have better insight into how policies will affect common people, how the merchant class will react, what the actual impact will be beyond theory. Because I was a common person. Because you pay attention," Lyrian corrected, joining our growing group. He'd been speaking with the Duchess who'd replaced Vera Holden after her execution. The new Duchess was considerably less murderous and considerably more competent. "And you're not afraid to tell powerful people they're wrong, even us, especially us," Evander added with a smile. "Useful quality in a consort," I said. "Essential quality in a mate," Evander corrected. Mira spotted us and ran over, her ribbon trailing behind her like a cape. "Papa, look what I found!" "That's beautiful, Starlight," Lyrian said, crouching to her level. "What are you going to do with it?" "Decorate!" she announced with the confidence of a 4-year-old who believed she could accomplish anything. Then she saw me. "Daddy, up!" I picked her up, settled her on my hip. She was getting heavier, growing fast, and soon she'd be too big to carry like this. She wrapped the ribbon around my neck like a scarf, her small hands careful not to pull too tight. "Perfect," she declared. "Absolutely perfect," Theron agreed. But he was looking at me, not the ribbon. His eyes held the same warmth they'd held 5 years ago when I'd woken up in the royal wing for the first time, when he'd told me I was their mate, when everything had changed. We stood there together, 3 kings, 1 consort. If one precocious daughter who had no idea how extraordinary her existence was, our family. "Do you ever think about that night?" I asked, keeping my voice quiet. Mira was playing with the ribbon, not paying attention to adult conversation. "The state dinner, when this all started." "Constantly," Evander said, his arms tightening around my waist. "Every day," Lyrian added. "I think about how lucky we were," Theron said, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was casual, comfortable, the kind of touch that came from years of intimacy. "That you were brave enough to drink poison, selfless enough to save us, and reckless enough to fall into our laps." "Literally," I said. "Literally," he agreed with a small smile. "Best accident of my life," Evander said. "Mine too," Lyrian echoed. "Mine 3," Mira announced, not understanding the conversation but wanting to participate anyway. We all laughed. The hall was filling now, as nobles arriving for the celebration. Commoners filtering in through the side entrances, another policy change I'd pushed for. The people should be able to celebrate with their kings, not just watch from outside. "I should check the kitchens," I said, starting to set Mira down. "The kitchens are fine," Theron said. "I had Rowan personally oversee all the food preparation, every dish tested 3 times by different tasters. Nothing is getting through. You're paranoid." "I'm careful," he corrected. "There's a difference." "He's been like this all week," Lyrian said. "Double-checking everything, reviewing security protocols, questioning every servant who'll be in the hall tonight. Because 5 years ago someone got poison past our security," Theron said firmly, "and I won't let that happen again." I understood his fear, lived with it myself sometimes, the knowledge that someone had tried to kill us all, that they'd nearly succeeded. But we couldn't live in fear forever. "Dance with me," I said to Theron. He blinked. "The celebration hasn't started yet. So, we're the kings. We can start it whenever we want." I handed Mira to Lyrian, who took her automatically. "Dance with me." Theron's expression softened. "All right." He led me to the center of the empty hall. Musicians were still setting up, but one violinist was tuning his instrument. The sound was quiet, imperfect, beautiful. Theron pulled me close, one hand at my waist, the other holding mine. We moved slowly, no formal pattern, just swaying together. "What brought this on?" he asked quietly. "I wanted to remember," I said. "Not the poison, not the fear, but this, us. How far we've come." "We've come far," You've changed, I observed. All three of you. You're less rigid, more willing to delegate, to trust. You changed us, Theron said simply. Before you, we were three brothers ruling together but still fundamentally alone. Now we're a family. That changes everything. The violin's tuning resolved into the first notes of a melody. Soft, sweet. Other couples started joining us on the floor. Nobles who'd been watching, emboldened by our example. Evander cut in smoothly, taking Theron's place. My turn. Theron stepped back with a small smile, moving to reclaim Mira from Lyrian. Evander held me differently, closer, more possessive. His hand splayed across my lower back, pulling me flush against him. You know everyone's watching, I murmured. Let them watch. He spun us smoothly. I'm dancing with my mate. I don't care who sees. You've gotten more open about this. About us? Yes. He dipped me slightly, making me gasp. I used to worry about propriety, about what the nobles would think. Now I realize I don't care. You're ours. We're yours. That's all that matters. When did you get so philosophical? You're rubbing off on me. He pulled me back up, kept me close. All of you are. Theron's teaching me patience. Lyrian's teaching me diplomacy. You're teaching me that not everything is a threat. Some things are threats. True, but not all things. Not always. He kissed my forehead. Brief, public, claiming. You taught me that. Lyrian cut in next, because of course he did. They'd been sharing me for 5 years. They had the rotation down to an art. My turn, Lyrian said with a smile. Evander released me reluctantly. Lyrian's dancing was different again. Smooth, practiced. He led me through proper formal steps, showing off in a way that made me laugh. Show off, I accused. Always. He agreed cheerfully. I have the most beautiful mate in 3 kingdoms. I'm allowed to show off. Flatterer, truth-teller. He spun me out, pulled me back in. How are you feeling? Really? Happy, I said, and meant it. Genuinely happy. Good. His smile was brilliant. That's all we ever wanted, for you to be happy here with us. I am. Even when we're overprotective and paranoid and possessive? Especially then, I said. Because it means you care. That I matter to you. All of you. You matter more than anything, Lyrian said seriously. You and Mira, you're our whole world. The song ended. Another began. We danced through 3 more songs, rotating between the 3 of them. In each dance different. Each mate bringing their own style to the movement. By the time we finally stopped, the hall was full. The celebration in full swing. Mira had been collected by her nursemaid, a kind beta woman who adored her. She'd be put to bed soon, though she'd probably sneak out to watch from the galleries like she always did during late celebrations. We returned to the head table, our table, the 4 of us. Servants brought food, all tested, all safe, and I ate without fear for the first time in years. To family, Theron said, raising his glass. To family, we all echoed. The wine was sweet, safe, perfect. 5 years ago I'd been nobody, a food taster, expendable. Now I was somebody, a father, a consort, a mate to 3 of the most powerful alphas alive. Not because I'd planned it, not because I'd schemed for it, but because I'd been in the right place at the wrong time with the right amount of reckless bravery, or I'd accidentally fallen into their laps, and they'd caught me, and held me, and never let go, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Later that night, after the celebration ended, after Mira had been tucked into bed, having indeed snuck out to watch from the galleries, the 4 of us retired to our private chambers. The royal bedroom was massive, designed for exactly this, 1 Omega, 3 Alphas, all bonded. We lay tangled together in the enormous bed, Theron on my left, Evander on my right, Lyrian at my back, all of them touching me, holding me, home. I love you, Theron said quietly into the darkness. All of you, Evander added, his hand finding mine. So much, Lyrian finished, his arm tight around my waist. I love you too, I said. All 3 of you. Always. The bond pulsed between us. Warm, perfect, complete. 5 years since I'd accidentally fallen into their laps. 5 years since I'd found exactly where I belonged. And I plan to stay right here for the rest of my life. Thank you for reading this story. If it touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had an accident that changed your life? Have you ever found home in the last place you expected? We'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, be brave, be bold, be loved, always.